Hello everyone, welcome to the first video on structured query language. So in this video I'm going to show you a couple things. I'm going to show you how to connect to the SQL Workbench, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create your first table using MySQL Workbench. The platform that we're utilizing in this video is MySQL, and I'll show you how to do it by writing code, and I'll show you another way of how to do it by dragging and dropping features. Preferably you'll learn in the course of this class it's best to create it by writing scripts, because later on you could use those scripts to execute something automatically versus the other way. So let's get started. So this right here is MySQL Workbench. So hopefully you've seen it before. So for example, this one here is my connection. So again, didn't want to do that. Give me a second here. So if I click on it and do edit connection, bring it over here. Just in case you haven't did it yet, and if you watch videos on how to do it, you want to make sure that you have your name, whatever your name is. So it'll be your first, whatever name you were assigned, .idt.pointpark.edu. Your port is 3306, and then root. So this is assuming that you have your environments established already, your MySQL environment through the free BSB, through the gel account. So if I hit test connection, if you get this, you should be fine. This right here just says that we're not using a secure connection, but it shows that this is up and running and we're good to go. Okay. So I'm going to hit close, and the first thing I'm going to do is if I double click on it, it's going to open up an editor, and this is what your editor will look like. In another video I'll explain a little bit in detail of what the server status, the client connections, and so forth is, but in this video is just to kind of specifically talk about how to create tables and so forth. Okay, so one of the tables we'll create, and I'll do it by writing some code. And then I'll show you ways that we could do it by drag and drop type of features, just to give you an example, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a table. So in order to create a table, it's important that you have a legend in your code, so that way if someone is going into it later on, they could see who created it and so forth. So I'm gonna do a backslash right here. There's a couple of different ways you could do it. So I'm actually gonna do it this way. So that allows me to write code in between, or allows me to write comments in here instead of having to do a forward slash every time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the author. So that would be you, whatever your name is. And then I'm going to put date created. In this case, I'll put, today's November. It is 9/23/18. And then date modified will be when you modified it. So in this case it'll be blank, and description is what is this. So we could say this is a let's see here. We'll call it table scripts to create tables for the environment, whatever that is. All right, whoops, and let's hit this. All right, so this is good. And then moving forward, you'll want to update that. All right, so now I can write my code. So I'm gonna type in create, and then I'm gonna do table. So table, create in table, or actually I should have this in a database here. So, all right, so this is our database that we have set up within our MySQL account. And later on, we'll show you how to create your own a different database and so forth. But right now, we'll just get started. So create table. And I'll call it customer, parentheses, and it'll be shift and 9, puts it in parentheses. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another parentheses so that we have a bracket in between it. And then I'm gonna put a semicolon at the end of it, and what that does is it executes the code when we're ready, okay? So I'm gonna indent over just a couple spaces here, 1, 2. I'm gonna put my fill names and what type of data types they are. So in this case, I'm gonna do customer number, int for integer, And now we need to define, do we want this to be a null or not null? So remember, this is going to be a number, like a unique ID in our table. So we want it to have a value of all time. So I'm going to put not null. And then I'm going to come over here and put auto increment. What that means is auto increment will automatically increment the number. So it'll start off at 1, 2, 3, and so forth, and move its way down. Okay. So now let's say that we need a last name in here. So one thing is, common ways is you could use customer last name, you could use last name, first name. It just depends on what you're looking for. So in this case, I'm just going to put last name, and then I'm going to set it up as a varchar, and I'm going to give it 25 spaces, and then I'm going to make it not null. Because we want, in this case, let's see here, it's just kind of rough. We want to make sure that we have all values in here so that we don't have a customer's name with nothing in it. And so then we'll do first name, same thing, we'll call it varchar 25. It depends on what the rules are. So whatever the business rules are for what you're developing. Let's see here, we'll put phone number. Actually, I'll just put phone. You know what, sometimes it's important to put if it's a home phone, but maybe you want to put a type. So let's do this, let's put phone, and let's do, we know that it's going to be like, let me think about this. So if I was going to comment this, it would be 724 900 1212. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters. And then if they use the dashes, we get 12 characters. So we're going to make it a 12. And we're going to make it a char 12. And the reason we're making it a char 12 is because we know that it has to be at least 12 spaces and there's not going to be anything else. And we're going to say, hey, you know what, this is not null. Another thing is we're going to add a type so that we could define what type of phone is it. Is it a cell phone? Is it a home phone? Something of that sort. So I'll put phone type. And this case is going to be, if I was creating a user interface, it'd be like a drop down. So let's see, I'm going to use mobile, M-O-B-I-L-E. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see, mobile is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or home is 3, 4. So we're looking at 6 at the value. So I'm going to do varchar 6. That's how many spaces it could be. So we're hoping they put mobile or home. And we're going to say that's not null as well. And then we're going to create a primary key. And we're going to have a constraint that our customer number is going to be considered our primary key. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in constraint. So we're building this constraint on here. And we have to come up with a name for the primary key. Normally it's the name, in this case a customer number, PK, or customer, because it's the name of the table. So the table name is customer. I'm going to call PK for primary key. And then I have to type in here primary key. And then in parentheses, I want to put what value that we're going to use as our primary key. In this case, it's going to be our customer number because that number is always changing, and it's a what do you call it? It's a, I can't even talk. It is a unique ID. Okay. All right. So now we want to run this. We want to run this script. We want to create this table in our environment. So what you can do is you could save this too. If you could come up here and save, you could save it to wherever you're saving. So I'm using a Mac, so as you see here, it's saying, hey, you want to save it to iCloud, whatever. If you're using a PC, it's going to be something else. But in this case, for now, I'm just going to go ahead and execute it. And one thing you're going to see, and this is important that you see why it blew up. This says it was not able to be created. And that's because we didn't specify where it's going. So our database is test, so we need to include that. So let's see, create table customer. So let's try this right here, test dot. So we have to put the name of our schema. So by putting test, that's the name of our database. You see down here, now it worked. Before we didn't implement where it was going to be at. So let's go down here to test, and I can right click and refresh all, and it should fetch, and you should see that we have a customer table now. Now if I drill down into the customer table and see columns, move this out here, you'll see that now we have everything that we define. We define it as a primary key. It's using a integer as the value. It's using an increment where it's incrementing the values one by one. We have last name. We have, so it defines like the name, it gives you what data type you use and so forth. Okay, and it doesn't have, it talks about indexes, and we'll talk about that in another video and as we move on. But right now we can say, hey, guess what, we got this. Now if we wanted to write a query to pull the values, which we have no code in here yet. So let's say, for example, we right click on it and say select rows limit 1000. What it's going to do is see if there's any values in there. Right now we have no values because we didn't put any values in there. Okay, so now this right here is, I'm going to save this. Now this is interesting because I'm going to save this as something here. Give me a second here. I'll show you something else.